Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm Steven Shomler, your host. So delighted you're here. Speaking of delighted, I am delighted. I'm back here in Bozeman, Montana. Come here at least once a year now. This is my third trip out for working. My fifth trip total. It's just an incredible town. If you want to see all of my Bozeman-centric content, you can go to adventuresinbozeman.com. Travel articles, food articles, craft beer podcasts, and more importantly for this podcast, links to all of my Bozeman-centric culinary podcasts. Today, I get to visit with the one and only Kate Burton, kind of a legend around here in the restaurant community here in Bozeman. Kate, I'm so delighted that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here as well.
All right, questions I ask everybody, and yours leads to a really interesting story on all my podcasts. So we'll do the first three, then we'll go back to the cool story. So where were you born?
I was born in the 3rd District of Saigon in Vietnam.
And where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school in Midland Park, New Jersey.
And what was the mascot there?
It was Panthers.
And are you comfortable telling your story from Saigon to high school in New Jersey?
Sure. I was adopted from Vietnam. My adoptive mother sent over a lawyer. My biological mother, for obvious reasons, had to let me go. I was put in a foster family for about 8-9 months before I was old enough to come on over to New Jersey. So there was my journey, and I'm the only adopted daughter. I have 3 brothers who are biological to my parents, and they're all back east. So,
and you came here just before the fall of Saigon.
Yes, I was one of the last legal planes out of Saigon. After that, it was all evacuation. So,
and tell me the story of how the attorney, when he saw you, how he found you.
I was actually born in a refrigerator box under a bridge in the 3rd District of Saigon. So I was very lucky, and so.
Your biological mom had a sign out, "Take my baby."
Yep, pretty much. So
that was a huge, almost brings me to tears, being kids of my own, a huge act of love on her part.
Absolutely. Like I said, very blessed, very lucky, great family. So
wow. Okay, I just need to gather myself. Sorry, I'm tenderhearted, and it gets more so. So most of your journey, you have worked as a short order cook. You've worked as a bartender. You're an amazing bartender. You could just step in and fill in if you need to. But most of your culinary journey has been front of house.
Yes.
And a front of house doesn't often get celebrated very much. And we'll talk about front of house and how important I think it is in a minute. And we'll explain to people what front of house is. But tell me about that first job working in a restaurant.
I actually started my restaurant career up in Cape Cod at a place called Mattakey's Wharf. It's in Barnstable.
So Mattakey's Wharf.
Mattakey's Wharf on the Cape, still open today.
And what kind of food do they have at Mattakey's Wharf?
Well, it's right on a harbor, so it's very much a seafood joint. Great bars. We had to wear these shirts with epaulets on it, and it's just the typical lobster steamers, stuffed clams, quahogs, all the good stuff. So that's where I kind of cut my teeth on.
And it's in the town of Barnstable, which is, if you don't know and read it, looks like one word, barnstable.
Yes.
Barnstable, Massachusetts, right?
Yep.
Do I say it close enough? The state saying good enough?
Yes. You did. Barnstable.
I have a good friend, Nick Gilso, who is in Boston through and through, and the things he tells me just crack me up.
Oh, yes.
And so the reason that your family had a summer home there, that once the kids all graduated, your parents lived there full time.
Yes.
But that's why, even though you were in New Jersey, at 15 in the summers, you were there.
Yes.
And what was your very first job?
I was a dishwasher. A dishwasher. I remember distinctly my father saying, I was at the beach and my dad saying, "Okay, you're 15, you're legal to work, and babysitting won't cut it." So I walked down the street, it was from walking distance from my house, and applied for a job, and that's where I started my restaurant career, is doing dishes.
And then what are some of the other jobs you had there at?
I also worked as on the pantry. I shucked oysters and lots of little neck clams. Made salads, and then when I was old enough at 18, I went to the front of the house, did the busing kind of thing, and then went into cocktail serving and then serving.
So what the heck, for those that don't know, front of house and back of house. Back of house is the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Front of house is everything that is in the kitchen. What do front of house people do?
So, front of the house people, they meet, they greet, sit down. They kind of provide a great dining experience. They help serve and promote the food, the great, delicious food, hopefully, that comes out from the kitchen. They hopefully promote drinks, great wine service, and just give a wonderful dining experience altogether. And it doesn't matter if you're a host or a bartender or a server or the maitre d', all of it works collaboratively to give this experience to somebody who comes in and enjoys eating.
One of the really important journeys in my, I guess, professional career really shaped me was I helped a brewery open and did a lot of different things, branding, marketing, social media, events. And then I ended up for a while working a brand new brewery, being the only person pouring beer, the only employee there. I wasn't even an employee, but the only person working on Wednesday nights. And it was early on, so we did not yet have a dishwasher. So we had to wash all the glasses by hand. And we didn't have very many glasses, so we had to wash them. And I had to learn how to pour beer properly, because I thought you just pull the thing, and heck no. Right. So I got taught how to pour beer properly. And it was really, some people are jerks to servers, and I just can't do that. I've never been. But having been worked as a server, working as a bartender, it was just beer. I didn't mix any drinks. Everyone, I think, in America, some people say you should go out of school and go to the military. I think you should get out of school and work as a server, because I think it will change the way you treat people. Anyone. Servers not the rest of your life, because it was amazing how many people were rude to me.
Yes.
Rude, unkind, nasty, and I'm hustling. We were never busy. I was right there. I mean, we had 2 or 3 people most of the time. It wasn't like they had to wait 20 minutes for me to get them, but they were just rude and unkind. And I don't know why in our country it's okay to be rude to servers.
I don't either. I have been very fortunate in my career. I find that I think being confident in the products that you represent, and then kill them with kindness kind of thing, that helps a lot. Every time I find a challenging or difficult customer or guest, I take it upon myself to change that, make that person leave with a smile on their face. It's difficult, though. I mean, it's definitely that service versus servitude thing. You have to really be a strong person to be a server. It takes a certain personality to be really confident in what you do and how to, change that experience. So I like that challenging patron or customer sometimes, It just, I don't know, it just makes it interesting.
Yeah, and I think I would be a very bad restaurant owner, because I think I would have my policy, okay, if someone's being rude, come get me, and I will throw their ass out. And I would just say, are you being rude to my server? Get out. Get out right now, and never come back. Right. And I would just get known as the crazy owner who will throw you out if you're rude. That probably wouldn't succeed, but that's where my heart is. It's like,
we like people like you.
So a lot of, when people think of, they go to a restaurant and they have a bad experience, I don't think people process how incredibly important front of house is, because usually when it's a bad experience, even though people don't think about it this way, it's not usually the kitchen that's the problem. It's not the quality of the food. Right. Usually it's a front of house failure. That's how important it is.
Right. We call those, we want to prevent service failures by doing a service recovery. So whether it is an issue with food or issue with service, we want to recover that really quickly. It's always a challenge. Obviously, not ignoring don't ignore the problem, and be there and try to, do whatever you can to change that experience, whatever you need to do. Usually is what my policy is, and I think.
Yeah, but I want people to realize how big a deal front of house is.
It really is. I mean, they can make or break your experience for sure. I mean, I will always go back to a restaurant with exceptional service and mediocre food rather than go to a place, I don't care how great that food is, if the service is terrible.
Amen. Yes. Amen. I agree completely. Okay, so you did get to Bozeman, but you've got a couple stops along the way that I want to cover. So 95. You go from East Coast to Wyoming.
Yeah.
I've been to Wyoming.
Yes.
What the heck?
So I went to school up at St. Lawrence University in upstate New York, and I met some friends who worked out at the CM Ranch in DuBois, Wyoming. And DuBois is it was a culture shock.
It's a metropolis.
Yeah, 470 something people, I think
the population.
It was. Yes. I was in total culture shock. First time I've ever seen, people wear Wranglers and these dinner plate belt buckles, and I had no idea. There was not a whole lot of that back, in Jersey or.
I think that's one of the things I like about Bozeman is when I was a little kid, I had a cowboy hat and some boots. I grew up just middle of nowhere and dirt everywhere, and my boots would come up to my knees, and they probably didn't fit me.
Right.
But when I didn't wear those, my regular shoes would just be full of dirt, and so the boots wouldn't. And so I was just thrilled with those. And in Bozeman, I can wear my Wranglers. I've got my boots. They're not really cowboy boots, but they're cool black boots. I've got my hat, my black hat, and people in Bozeman or in Portland, when they see pictures of it, they think I'm like dressing up for Halloween, but like I can get away with this here, and I love it. And it is different culture, but Bozeman is not quite like Du Bois, Wyoming.
No.
And particularly back then. What a culture shock for you.
It was shocking for sure. And I had never experienced so much open space and skies. I mean, I've done, some mountains up in, the Adirondacks, but this was a whole different, the West is a whole different ballgame, no deciduous trees, lots of conifers, that's just.
Did it resonate with your heart?
It did. I have to say that I fell in love with it, from that point on, and I've been out here since my early 20s. So
So you spent the summer and fall there at that ranch. And what were you doing at that ranch?
I was serving, doing a little bit of back of house. It was kind of all hands in, kind of dude ranch. But it was for a lot of, we had a lot of more famous people came out there and enjoyed it. So it was really at that time owned by two East Coast people, but it was a lot of people from back east that came out and worked the ranch and kind of gave that fly fishing, horseback riding experience to people who wanted to try out the ranch life. So,
and then you left there, and rather than head back to the East Coast, you go to Big Sky.
Yes, we had visited some friends I had met, knew some people in Big Sky, and we went up there during one of our times off and did a whitewater rafting trip with the Yellowstone Raft Company at the time, and then we did some camping, and I just was enamored. So
Big Sky is kind of an interesting thing. A lot of people don't even know what it is. Some people do. It's about how far a drive from here?
I'd say about 45-minute, when the weather's nice, 45-minute drive from here. And it's
you head out, you leave here headed toward West Yellowstone, and then before you get to West Yellowstone, you take a right, and you drive up a little bit, and there's this really small community, really,
yes,
with a gazillion houses that people live in part-time. They go out there for the winter. People have these just vacation homes, second homes.
Right.
And then there's a resort out there. And so a lot of people are there in the summer or in the winter, but it's not like a full year-round community.
Well, especially back in 1995, it was definitely a lot of shoulder seasons, spring and fall. They were pretty empty, but it was definitely a resort town, skiing in the winter, of course, and then summer fly fishing and rafting and horseback riding. So.
And it still is a little bit that way today.
Oh, of course.
And there's still not like, people that today that work in at all the amazing restaurants in Big Sky, they don't necessarily live in Big Sky.
No.
There's not a lot of rental properties. So a lot of people, young people, they may go to Big Sky to work, but then they end up moving to Bozeman. It's kind of a natural migration that happens.
Yes, absolutely. And that's definitely what happened to me. And then in 98, I decided to move back to Bozeman, I should say.
And why did you move to Bozeman?
I wanted to go back to school at Montana State, and also I just wanted to
finish your degree that you started at
St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence.
Yep. And then also it's a bigger town. Really, there was no grocery store back then. There was no. It was very, very small, and it was it's frustrating to live that way for me. So I wanted to go. I still wanted to have the benefit of the mountains and everything around, but a little bit of a bigger community.
So you moved to Bozeman. You're going to MSU, and you work at a place that I've never been to, but it's actually near and dear to my heart.
Yes, I worked at Spanish Peaks when I first moved for about a year. And
for those that don't know, Spanish Peaks is the first modern day. There's breweries way back in ancient history, but modern day brewery here in Bozeman.
Yes.
And you worked at the original one on 19th, right? Mm-hmm. And who was the brewmaster at Spanish Peaks?
Todd Scott.
Todd Scott. I love Todd Scott.
Yes.
Spanish Peaks moved away. Mm-hmm. They moved away, and there was no brewery in Bozeman. And Todd Scott started Bozeman Brewing Company, which then was the oldest brewery in Bozeman, and it's still around. I did a podcast with him, a craft beer podcast with him, and he made me cry on my own podcast. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So you got to work with. He's like a craft beer legend.
He is. He's one of the first around here, and I admire him greatly. And he's always been a kind person and a great guy to work with. So
yeah, I love him. And then in 1999, you ended up working at an iconic restaurant here in Bozeman that's gone now, Boodles.
Yes, Boodles restaurant. I started there, and I worked there for about 10 years. Started serving, bartending, and then eventually managing, and I loved every moment of it. It was a great family and a great atmosphere, and it was just in a unique place, really, really unique.
So I did a podcast with a gentleman named Chef Scotty Burton, and your name is Kate Burton.
Yes.
And you guys are actually married now, and you're together.
Yes.
And he's a chef, an amazing chef. His podcast was phenomenal. I had so much fun with it. And he tells, if anyone wants to know what happened to Boodles, Boodles literally blew up. Right?
Yes.
And he tells, on that podcast, he tells the incredible story of it blowing up. But
Yes.
but before Boodles blew up, 99, you worked there. So you worked a long time at Boodles.
Yes.
But then as things often happen, journeys change and chapters close, and you moved back to Boston.
I did. I decided to do my student teaching back in Boston, and I was there for about a year.
And then you, if I understand correctly, you, rather than stay there, you discovered that you were integrated into Montana. Were you no longer a city girl, right?
I couldn't take it. I was the traffic, the noise. I missed the big sky. I missed the fresh air. So, I hightailed it back, and the grass was not greener. So I went back. I came back to Bozeman.
And then eventually along the way, you and Scotty start dating.
Yes.
While you're at Boodles.
Yes.
You come back to Bozeman and you came back to Boodles.
Yes.
And you and Scotty start dating. And there was a spark early in your journey together when you'd worked at Boodles, but nothing came of that spark.
Nope. Actually, I had met Mr. Burton quite a while back, I think back in 2001, and we were both dating other people, but I always had a little bit of a crush on him, and I do distinctly remember grabbing him downstairs, throwing him against the wall, and planting a kiss on his lips and running up the stairs. It's a funny story, and I guess he always remembered that kiss.
What stuck with him? You know, when he did my podcast, he told the story that when he was in Pendleton working at this really crazy, amazing steakhouse and doing wine in Walla Walla, and he ran away from Bozeman, and he got a call that he needed to come back to Boodles, and so he moved back to Boodles, to Bozeman, and to get Kate. That's how he tells it.
True story.
And he didn't put it on the podcast, but he did talk about that kiss when we had private conversation, and his face just lit up.
Yes.
So that was early on, but then when you guys connect and you start dating, and you guys are married now, and so what's it like being in a long-term relationship with a chef?
I'm the luckiest girl alive, as far as I'm concerned. He cooks for me. I mean, he cooks whatever I want, all different kinds of food. So, really, really exciting. We love cooking together. We actually end up cooking more than going out to dinner at restaurants. We tend to stay at home and cook. So, awesome.
Okay, so time out.
Yeah.
First, I celebrate you guys' relationship. I've seen you guys together. I can tell when I used to work with couples professionally in the nonprofit world. I can tell when couples don't like each other. You guys like each other. It warms my heart greatly. But a lot of people that have dated chefs, it is not the amazing Nirvana experience you are making it out to be.
Well, I think we're successful because we're both in the business. You have to understand we don't have weekends off. We work holidays. We work long hours. And I think we both understand that. So I might have these great dinners, but they may be at 2:00 in the morning, or they may be on a Sunday morning, or really early. We don't eat at normal times. But I wouldn't change it for the world,
Yeah, so my wife and my son do a podcast called the Desperately Dating Podcast.
Oh, that's great.
And it's amazing. It's an amazing podcast, and they talk about relationships a lot. And a big thing they talk about is it has to be a good fit.
Yes.
And I think just from what I can tell, just personality-wise and just as people, you and Scotty are a good fit that way.
We are.
You're a good fit because you're both in the restaurant business. But then I think a really important thing you're a good fit on is you both passionately love the restaurant business.
We do. For some reason, it chose me. I can't seem to get out of it. I'm not trying at this point. I've always gone back to it time and time again. I love engaging with people. I love, providing that great dining experience. I love getting people inebriated and well fed. And I just, I like going out to eat, and I think I'd like to provide that experience for other people as well. So
yeah, and it shines through. When you talk about it, and I've been at one of the places that you oversee. We'll get to that in a second. And someone that you can tell when someone, what I teach is it leaks out. I own too many domains, and I own itleaksout.com. And you can tell when someone's like their boss, or doesn't like their job, or doesn't like their girlfriend, or if they do and it leaks out. And I think part of the component is when a restaurant just has that really good vibe, it's leaking out from the people that are working there. And the person that's kind of in charge, they kind of set the tone in the culture. Absolutely. I know I am convinced that if I was to work a day in the kitchen with Scotty as one of his kitchen workers, or even just someone, just ferrying food back and forth, like a glance in the kitchen, I would sense camaraderie and a really good culture, and I'd hear the good jazz music playing, and he builds that. And I think that leaks out to the rest. And I think the same thing runs true when someone runs a restaurant. The manager of the restaurant, if they're crabby and grumpy, it leaks out, and I think it literally gets crabbiness into the food.
I agree completely. I always try to say positive attitude. I always am very much that team mentality. I think is really important. Just trying to help everybody out. I always say, mistakes are made, but if you have a great attitude, that makes up for so much. Even if you don't know how to make this drink, or you messed up on someone's food order, as long as you're really super bright and positive, I think that helps out with anything.
Well, I think that your love for the restaurant industry is important. I did a podcast yesterday with Elizabeth, who owns Land of Magic Steakhouse.
Yes.
Up in
iconic.
The how did she tell me to say it? The zip code of Manhattan, the township of Logan.
Yes.
And she runs the restaurant, and her husband Jay was a teacher for 34 years.
Yes.
And he and I talked a little bit about. He loved teaching, but teachers that don't love teaching. And it's hard on everybody. And I think the same thing too. If you're in the restaurant business and you don't love it, get out.
Absolutely.
Just get out. It's better for all of us, and it's better for you.
Right.
Whereas in your case, you love it. All right. I banged that drum enough. So today, I think I have this right. Professionally, you are a director of operations for OK Cool Management Group, which is a really awesome restaurant group here in Bozeman.
Yes.
There's a couple of those. I did a podcast with Serena, and she has some amazing restaurants, and I love her and love her stuff. And you guys have some awesome restaurants. And so you kind of oversee, make the magic happen, keep an eye on, shepherd, right, herd on, El Camino, Kitty Warren. There's some other ones coming that I've been sworn to secrecy on we can't talk about.
Yes.
Talk to me about Kitty Warren.
So Kitty Warren is a social club, very much beloved by a lot of people here in Bozeman. We are kind of a speakeasy, meets Tiki inspired a bar, and we're
below ground.
Below ground. It's definitely like that. It's speak Tiki type.
Speak Tiki to me.
Yeah, exactly. And we're gonna do Tiki food, and it's just a really cool vibe down there. It's dark, lots of couches. Really, great crafted cocktails, kind of a really cool vibe down there.
I have to tell you, I love me some Mai Tais. It is fun. And I'll just throw out, if you can get a hold of some Kaloa rum, they're a distiller in Kauai. I'm a big fan of theirs. Their coconut rum, I love coconut things.
Me too.
And it's so often in food, it's done badly.
Right.
It tastes medicinal. Their coconut rum's amazing. They do a dark rum. I created, when I was there in Kauai, the Mola A'abe Mai Tai. Not a bartender. I play one on TV, but I had Pog. I put Pog in there. I put a fair amount of their coconut rum, and then about a good inch float of their dark rum on the top.
Doing me proud. I love it. Sounds great.
I don't have time this trip, but I'm gonna have to get me to Kitty Warren, because I love Speak Tiki to me. It's amazing.
Yes.
I am all in on that. So that's incredible. And then the other place that you heard on is El Camino, and it took me a while to get my mind around it. I walked in and I was enchanted. And some people say, well, I've heard people tell me, oh yeah, it's a dive bar. And so I love dive bars. PortlandDiveBars.com. That's a project of mine. I've got a book coming out on dive bars. I love dive bars, but I walked into El Camino. It's like, well, what is going on here? So let me try and explain it. See if you agree with me. So Bozeman has some dive bars. My favorite is Hofbrau. did a podcast with Don at Hofbrau, and I teach people to be careful. There's 101 dive bars and 401 dive bars, and if you walk into Hofbrau and you've never been there before, and maybe you're not from Montana, so maybe you're dressed a little bit different, you walk in, they make you look up at you and like, who are you? But they're not unwelcoming.
No.
But they're going to notice you, and you kind of like have to kind of ease your way in, right? And I love Hofbrau and I love dive bars, but it's a different culture, and of course dive bars, I love it. They're dirty. Sometimes the good ones are smelly. I mean, some people think I'm nuts. I remember the first time I took my son to a dive bar, he was horrified. Real dive bar in Cincinnati. It was amazing. But the story for another time. But but I think Hofbrau is an accessible 101 dive bar.
Yes.
And then there's like 401 dive bars, a Glass House back home. They have amazing roasted chicken and JoJo's, which is the thing we have in the Northwest. And when I was there, I recommend only go there if you're an experienced dive bar-in, very experienced, and then only go in the day. Because when I was there the couple times, I felt like this feels dangerous. Like someone could get killed here. And then a little bit after the first time I was there, a couple months later, someone was killed there in the evening. And so that's a 401 dive bar. But there's a lot of really good things about a dive bar, and finally it hit me when I'm sitting there at El Camino. It had all of the energy and everything that I wanted in a dive bar, but it was like an elevated dive bar. It was clean, it was bright, the music was perfect. I felt incredibly welcome. I have friends, of every persuasion you could imagine. I could bring them all into El Camino. It was like, not that I do love a dive bar, but it's like everything I love about a dive bar, but even better. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. That's kind of, service, they talk about like having a great atmosphere, being really clean, especially during these times. But service can be great whether you're working in a dive bar or a 5-star restaurant. And I wanted that at El Camino. I wanted them to feel like, oh, you're coming home, you're greeted like, hello, great old school music and a burger shack, a chicken shack, and just kind of that was the vibe we wanted to go for.
Well, you guys nailed it. It's bright, welcoming, inclusive, happy colors, and then the food and the cocktails. Oh my goodness. So Lalo is a dive bar in Portland I love, and they have slushies.
Yes.
Lots of places have slushies. The Sandy Hut, they have slushies. So it's just, slushies are amazing. They're amazing, alcoholic, phenomenal. And
dangerous.
And I looked up at your menu and I said, oh, they have slushies. And then I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't say slushies. So you call your slushies Slurshies. And it took me a while to figure out, because you're going to drink them and start slurring.
Right. Absolutely.
It was a long day for me yesterday, but there was a number of them that let me look at my menu here. There was a number of them that you have and this could change over time. So we're doing this podcast right now, 2020. So if it's a different menu in 2022, relax. But for now, you have a Greyhound, you have a Frosé, you have a margarita,
yes,
a pina colada, a strawberry daiquiri, and then you always do a Slurshee for a cause.
Yes,
and that's a special flavor one, and that changes.
That changes every month for we try to support our local nonprofits.
And so I'm wanting, I'm going to love all of them because they have alcohol.
Sure,
so I want the prettiest photo.
Yeah.
And so Alicia, one of your servers, a bartender, she's helping me. And finally she realizes I really am open to feedback. Just tell me what to do. And she says, oh, you want the Miami Vice? And I'm like, I don't see that on the menu. And she says, well, it is pina colada and strawberry daiquiri.
Ah, so good. Yes.
It's so good. But even more importantly, for my crazy world, it's so beautiful. And then she says, oh, and would you like an extra shot? And I go, well, of course. I always want the extra shot. And she puts this little cool,
vial. Yes.
Vial of blackstrap rum. And then beautiful photo. And then when I lift it out, the blackstrap rum runs down into the Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah. We call them a power-up.
Oh, it was... First, Alicia's an incredible server. Hats off to her. She was really helpful. Like, tell me what to do. And I love it when I can tell the server what and they nail it. But the pictures are beautiful. It was so good. I've learned I like to write an article about, the place, go to this place. And then one thing they have that blew my mind, and I think I'm going to write crazy it sounds about the Miami Vice.
Oh, it's so good.
It was so good.
Yes.
And some of the food just blew my mind. Absolutely loved it. And I just love talking about food. The spicy mini corn dogs on a stick.
Huge hit.
Food on a stick is so good.
Yep. We hand batter them ourselves, and with that spicy mustard and that strawberry jam, so tasty. Who doesn't like spicy, sweet and savory?
Yeah, and I've got pictures of dipping, and I'll put a link. If you go to culinary-treasure-podcast.com, we'll have this article, and then there'll be a link to the Culinary Treasure article with photos about my visit to El Camino, and I have beautiful photos of those mini corn dogs on a stick dipping into the strawberry jam. I was looking at them last night, having eaten a huge dinner, and then I wanted them at 11:30, and I'm like, this is crazy that I want these mini corn dogs.
That's great.
Another appetizer I had that was pretty amazing is spicy chicken crisps. And these were spicy as all get out, but they were amazing. Tell us, those that don't know, tell us what the heck those are.
So our chicken crisps are actually chicken skins that have been fried, and they're tossed in a spicy mixture, secret spice mixture, and then we drizzle them with honey. They're a hit. They're so tasty and the perfect bar snack food to go with your Miami Vice for sure.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly.
They are spicy though, for sure.
They are. And then I had the Elko.
The Elko burger with the, oh yes.
Oh my goodness.
Double patty. You gotta love a double patty burger with jalapenos and cheese. So good.
Caramelized onions.
Yep.
It is absolutely phenomenal. I loved that. And then I had your spicy fried chicken sandwich.
Our chicken's great. We brine our chicken in house and batter it, and we do our chicken sandwiches are fantastic. We use a local pickle. They're great. Goes great with local beers and all our slurpees. Love it.
And then with my Elko, I had the fries. The fries were on point. With the spicy fried chicken sandwich.
Yes.
I had the tots.
Oh yes.
They got a little bit of ranch seasoning on them.
Oh yeah. Yes.
They were so good. And then I looked up, and wait a minute. You can get different sauces.
Oh, we have a lot of sauces.
You got what is the fancy sauce? I didn't have that one.
Fancy sauce is like an elevated fry sauce. It's got horseradish. It's got relish. Lots of other seasonings and stuff that I can't tell you, or if I tell you, I have to, kill you.
Yep.
Just kidding. But really, really good. We put it all on all our chicken sandwiches, as well as having it on the side. So we do a lot of different sauces.
So we can get any of these sauces to dip our sandwiches in, to dip our tots, our fries in. So
Yep.
you've got the fancy sauce, you've got the ranch sauce, spicy ranch sauce, honey mustard, spicy Asian.
Yep.
Buffalo, barbecue, and then the coup de grace for me while I'm eating these tots, it hits me. You've got white gravy.
Oh, yes. Yes, so good.
I love gravy. I could take baths in gravy. White gravy, dark gravy, sausage gravy on chicken fried steak at a dive bar with an IPA. That's like one of my perfect meals.
Oh, yeah.
So I order some of this white gravy to dip my tots in. Phenomenal.
You can just pour the whole thing on top of the tots and just munch away. It's fork knife job, so good.
It was super, super good. I wish I could have just eaten the whole menu, but I would have exploded. That just wouldn't have been good for me. Something I didn't have, but I just think is so much fun. You've got fried cheese curds.
Yes. Cheese curds are a big hit. When, winters are long here, so anything fried with cheese, bulking season, is longer than our summers. So yes, we like the fried foods for sure.
And because it's my job, I had to try a number of the cocktails. It's my duty and responsibility really to care for my fans. It's not gluttony; it's service to them.
No, of course.
So back home in Portland, a lot of the dive bars will have a snowball, which I'm like, what the heck is a snowball? And it is a seltzer where you add vodka.
Right. Yeah.
And okay, great. I do that. You guys, your version was called a trash can.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite pictures I've taken this week. It just was so amazing. Vodka, lemon juice, simple syrup, and a White Claw.
It's pretty much a vodka lemonade with a White Claw dumped into it. It's amazing. They're a hit.
I really like that. I didn't get the Long Island because I had to walk.
Right.
But I love me a Long Island. Your Long Island looked amazing. I had your spicy margarita.
Mm-hmm. Oh. So good. We add sriracha to it. It's our sriracha. Yeah.
And it had heat, but it had just the right amount of heat, and it was amazing. And then, thanks again to Alicia, bartender extraordinaire, you have a mojito on the menu, which is fine. Sometimes I like a mojito. She says, but wait, we have a secret menu. You need to get the Huckleberry Mojito.
Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness. That was phenomenal.
You can put a little Montana into your mojito, right? For sure.
I just absolutely love that. A Huckleberry Mojito.
That's a lot of them.
People have, even though it's not even the menu, people have to come get those. I just want people to be prepared, stay long enough to have a meal and 2 drinks, start with the Miami Vice, and then close with the Huckleberry Mojito.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's amazing. Okay, and then one last thing I want to wax eloquent about, because it was so good. Fancy places have galettes, which is kind of like a hand pie. But a hand pie is a whole different deal. And in some senses, a hand pie in my world might be more elevated than a galette.
Yes.
And you have a fried apple hand pie. It took me back to my childhood.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing.
Yes, Miranda does all our, she's our chef. She does all our pies, and the hand pies are fantastic, and has the little rock on puff pastry on top of it, which is very much, our vibe. They're delicious.
And the puff pastry I could have just eaten that, because it was just perfect, crispy and
buttery, flaky.
Yes, that's what else I'm going. Flaky.
Yeah.
Just a little hint of salt in it.
Yep.
Oh, that was good. But then this apple hand pie, and it wasn't too big. It was just perfect, because I'd eaten a whole bunch at that point. And then it hit me that as much as I loved it, I want to come in the dead of winter when the snow's falling, and I want 4 hand pies, a la mode, and some bourbon. That
Absolutely.
to me just sounds perfect.
Absolutely. We encourage that. You have to come back.
All right. And speaking of coming back, you dirty dogs, you're getting ready to launch add more stuff to the Cool Chicken.
Well, we are. We're hoping to, we will pretty soon add a bone-in chicken program, a fried chicken, so you can get a fried chicken bucket with all the sides and fixins, and we're hoping to do that within the next month.
So probably by the time this podcast comes out, that'll already be there.
I hope so. Ideally.
I just mention it now because I can't have that, and now I have to come back. I'm going to have to come back for the secret things we can't talk about, the secret places that are open and it'll be overseeing. I got to have time next time, allow time to get down to Kitty Warren, because I love me, speak Tiki to me, and then I'm going to have the fried chicken, because if it's anything close like any of the other food, it's going to be off the charts.
We hope so, for sure.
Oh man, it has just been a delight. So as we close, tell me, what do you love about Bozeman? I love Bozeman. People look at me like I'm nuts. You're going back out again? You fell in love with that place. Yes, I did. What do you love about Bozeman?
I love the sense of community Bozeman provides. It's just such a warm, inviting. People smile on the streets. They're happy to be here. It's just a great area to live, to raise kids, to be. It's just the neighborhood is just fantastic. It's just a great, great town.
Yeah, the vibe here is just amazing. The people, for the most part, are friendly,
laid back. It's just a really great energy here.
Yeah. Well, Kate, it has been a delight to have you. And it's hard for me to call you Kate, because so many people in your world call you Mom.
I have been the mother of restaurants around here for a long time, and I have had a lot of what I call kids. My husband and I don't have children, but we do have a lot of restaurant children. So
yeah, and they call you Mom, and yes. I was like, oh, we got to ask Mom, and I went, okay, that's Kate.
Yeah.
And then I heard of this chef person that's not his title, that's his name.
Yes.
His name is Chef. I said, oh, you mean Scotty? Okay.
Chef and Mama.
Chef and Mama. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We've been around here for a while, so.
Yeah, and just I feel the people that get to work for you are particularly the young people that are learning for the first time at their first restaurant job. What a gift and a blessing you're giving them to figure out the right way to do it, particularly if they want to launch out to a career. I think that's awesome. And then for me as a consumer, as a customer who loves to eat amazing food, the end result is phenomenal. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do. It was a delight to have you on the Culinary Treasure Podcast. I'm coming back. We have to do a follow-up podcast with you about these secret places. I would like that.
Great.
And I suspect that having worked at front of house for you've been at
30 years?
30 years. So you started when you were like 6.
Right. Of course I did.
That you have some interesting stories that we may dig out of you. Some appropriate ones. There's some I know in the restaurant business we could never tell.
There are some dark, deep secrets I can never reveal.
But we'll get into next time. We'll do a follow-up with you and have some more. Get into some of those stories. That we told your story.
Okay.
All right. I wish you all the best. Cheers.
Cheers.